So what is the reticence then? You see the movie business, how ticket prices have gone up, game prices haven't gone up. Is it because the industry doesn't, it's still trying to get that mainstream acceptance, so it doesn't want to sort of increase the price to a point where it even further marginalizes the game business?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, within our ecosystem, we're still talking about something that's far more expensive than a movie ticket. I mean, you could have argued that back then movie tickets were way undervalued than they are now. We're just now starting to hit a level of movie prices where you're actually
that's a 2-hour experience versus games that are
quick.
right?
That's true, but still, I mean, it's also an easier experience. Everyone can do it just automatically. With these games at these prices, part of what you're offering is a very long experience. There's a huge time commitment associated with playing a good game. Not like learning the controls, but then spending hours going through all the levels. Frankly, most people don't even get to the end of those games, which they paid for. They paid for the entire thing. So the economics of it start going a little haywire at the higher levels. But it is true. If you would a great GTA game at a higher price sell, yes, and it's not because the publisher is trying to gouge anyone. It's because they probably put in truly a value of a higher price game, and people would recognize that and be willing to pay it.
We're also talking about franchises too. I mean, it's hard to launch a new title at $60, $70. I think it's different coming in where you've got Halo 3 or you've got GTA 4. Launching a new franchise. I mean, Gears of War is amazing, and that's a game that's going to be a franchise. But it's not easy to do.
Sure.
Well, I think only first parties really with the kind of marketing support and the sort of secondary rationale for why they're launching it are going to be able to.
Sony, I think with PS2, they started charging $10 less for a lot of their big PS2 games, and they were saying Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, they were charging less because it's sort of a loss leader to get people to buy them. We're seeing kind of more, I think, stratification in terms of pricing too, because last year we saw experiments on the 360 with Atari had Test Drive Unlimited. I think they put out for $39, and I think table tennis was like that from Rockstar. Michael, what do you think we're going to see more kind of stratification going forward in terms of some games will be $20, others will be $70?
It'll be cost driven. So sure. If you're going to put out Tetris on the 360, it's going to be a $20 game because it's just not going to cost that much to make it graphically beautiful. The engine is very simple. Table tennis, was a test. They were just testing to see what they could do on the system, and they decided to turn their test into a game. So again, they didn't have any incremental cost. I think you'll see stratification, but I think that other than puzzle games that'll be very inexpensive, it's really going to be limited to probably 40, 50, and 60. I don't think they'll be significantly less than 40. And the games that are going to be 40 are going to tend to be more child-oriented, kiddie-oriented, without a license. So you're not going to see a Pixar game at 40 because they can't afford to do it and pay Pixar. I think Ed made a point that we really should think about is the cost of a movie. And it's $10 to see a movie, but it's $30 to buy the Lord of the Rings, collector's edition when it comes out. That's a 3-hour experience. And a video game is $60. Try selling your Lord of the Rings DVD, collector's edition for $15 a week after you buy it for $30. Where's the trade-in shop? You can go to GameStop and you can sell Gears of War for $30. Boom.
Get it back.
Today.
Yeah.
So the risk for the consumer on a brand new game, if they don't like it, is probably $30. That's still too much. You're going to go rent it first and make sure that you try it. I wouldn't let my kids, just buy every game in sight. I'd rather spend $6. I'd rather spend $20 a month and have them rent it and try stuff out before I'd let them buy. But the cost of a game is not that much because there's a resale market.
And now we've got, with single player and multiplayer, I mean, people are, spending huge amounts of time on these games. And is there, you see a lot of these games, a single player game would be $60, and then it has multiplayer as well, and they're only charging $60. And do you think, going forward, given sort of how much time it takes to build these games and how epic they have to be, are we going to start seeing, a single player game will be a certain amount of money, but then you have to, pay a subscription fee for the multiplayer? What do you think is going to happen to the cost of games over this generation?
I think that this is largely has to do with consumer expectations. Right now, the expectation is if you are, say, a first-person shooter and you're on a console, that you are going to offer a multiplayer experience along with that single-player experience. And you're going to have a phenomenally good reason to somehow separate the two and segregate them and start to charge separately from them. And I think you're finding a lot of resistance from the public because they've already been trained that this is how they will interact with the game and this is the value they'll get for paying up for it. So I don't think you'll see it so much on the basis of segregating out multiplayer from single player. You may see it more on the basis of either something more episodic, or you may see it more on the basis of weaving in sponsorship revenues, if it makes sense, or advertising revenues. perhaps microtransactions. And there's a variety of other ways you can do revenue enhancements if you're going to do it. I'm sort of hesitant, though, about separating those two, single player and multiplayer.
But we got to come up with other business models, because where does this end up? Games get to be $80, $90, $100. I mean, how many games can the average American buy if they're $80 or $90 or $100? Because the cost of games keeps going up. It's not slowing down. So something's got to change. Something's got to give.
Maybe the market will grow. So
well, that's the mainstream.
The market's big. The market's big already.
That's true.
Well, you need the prices to come down if you're really going to attract a mainstream audience.
Right.
They're not going to go for it at the higher prices we have, and we see that in the kinds of games that are successful. They're the more hardcore games that are really the big selling games, the Gears of War and that type. So for us to get a mainstream audience, we have to offer an alternative. You see submarine attempts going on from the casual PC download market, where they're starting to grow. They're kind of off the radar, but it's starting to percolate along. So there could be other ways of doing this.
There are lots of other ways. We're going to look at them coming up in the bonus round. Next time on the bonus round, we move from retail to rental. Is the rental business good or bad for the industry?
I think rental definitely drives sales of good games. I think rental definitely hurts sales of bad games.
And with the rise of digital distribution, where does the rental business go from here?
I love the ability to try before you buy, and I think that's critical for the games business.
Find out next Saturday on the next bonus round.
Bonus round.